What is up, Poppy fans in the Ring Army? My name is Nized Tericho, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm bringing you all a new podcast episode with special guest Tericho, a Poppy Playtime and horror game theorist. We talked about the Poppy Playtime movie and even a bit of the Orientation Notebook. Please make sure to support him. All his links are down in the description. And of course, if you are new here to the channel or if you're from Tericho's audience, welcome, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. I'd also really appreciate it if you could subscribe to support my work. Thank you so much. And with all that, enjoy the video. So I wanted to start this off by thanking you, Tericho, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Nized.
It's going to be very exciting. We're going to be talking about the upcoming Poppy Playtime movie. So how do you feel about that?
Wait, there's a Poppy Playtime movie? No. No way.
This early?
No way. Yeah, no, I'm actually excited. Controversial opinion, because I think it's a kind of mixed opinion so far in this one, but I'm hyped. I think it could be. Is it too early in the podcast to bring out hot takes?
Oh no, go for it.
Okay, fantastic. Because I like the FNAF movie, but I feel like it could have been so much better, and I feel like the Poppy Playtime movie potentially could be better than the FNAF movie. And I know you're probably going to lose like so many subscribers for me saying that.
No,
don't unsubscribe from Nized, okay? Nized didn't say it, but I think it could. I think it has the potential to be like better than the FNAF movie if they do it right.
I do agree on that. Yes, that's the one thing I really hope for Mob and Legendary to not go down. Don't go down the same road as the FNAF movie. Actually, try to make it scary, right?
Exactly. This was my big thing with the FNAF movie, because I like FNAF, like, don't get me wrong, but yeah. The movie started off looking like it was going to be scary, and then it just very quickly wasn't scary anymore. It was all about the lore, which I love the lore. I'm a lore guy. I love lore so much, but when I'm watching a horror movie, I want it to be scary, and that was what was missing from the FNAF movie. And if you look at how Chapter 3 of Poppy Playtime has gone, the movie could be really scary.
They have the potential, especially with Legendary, known for creating Godzilla vs. Kong, for example. Like, they have the potential to make this an actual action-packed horror movie. Like, I hope they don't just stay with the lore, like you said. More horror elements would be much appreciated. And I really like another thing I really hope that they don't do is heavily thrive on CGI.
Well, this is the thing with Legendary. If you look at the movies that they've produced, for anyone who's not familiar, Legendary is a movie production studio. I covered it in my latest video. But the things that they've done really seem to fit well with Poppy Playtime. They've done big kaiju movies with Godzilla and Kong, which is perfect for, you could kind of call the bigger bodies in Poppy Playtime like mini kaijus almost. So they've got that. They've also got a bunch of horror movies that they've done, like Trick or Treat and Splice. And then, like you say, they've also got like quite a lot of really high budget CGI, but also practical effects. So they've kind of done all of the things that could make the Poppy Playtime movie great already with other projects. So I don't know, I think Legendary seems like, and I wonder personally if this is why they chose Legendary, because I think, didn't they already have a studio lined up or something, and then they changed?
Yes,
or
they had Studio 71, but taking a look at their history, I believe they made some movies, but they're not very good. Like, they're like kind of low budget, right?
Yeah, I think I'm slightly familiar with Studio 71. I'm a big horror film guy, but Legendary's huge, right? They've done Jurassic Park, like the newer ones, which, listen, the old ones are better, but still, like the new Jurassic Park movies they're still very, very well made. Mm-hmm. And like they've done these massive budget movies, which really, it just gives me hope that the Poppy Playtime movie is going to have a decent budget behind it too. Because as sad as it is to say, with movies like this, like budget is a huge part of it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I agree. I do wonder though how much they're going to invest in this. I assume maybe, well, because we don't know anything about the movie just yet. We don't know the details. We don't know when's it going to be based off of. We don't know if it's going to be about the chapters or whatnot. So we don't know of how we can guess how much they're going to put on the budget. But I assume with these kind of movies, or with the Poppy Playtime movie, I don't think it's going to take a lot of budget to make it. Because, it's simple. It's not like Godzilla, like that high level yet. But for Poppy Playtime, I feel like it can be a fun, campy type of low budget movie, like the FNAF movie, for example. it doesn't take that much to make that kind of movie. So I feel like,
I mean,
yeah. So
FNAF
I feel like,
was relatively. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just saying, like the FNAF movie. I'm not like an expert on budgets or film budgets or anything like that, but the FNAF movie seemed like a relatively. This is going to sound crazy, but like a relatively low budget movie. I think 20 million doesn't seem like that much for big movies anymore.
No.
And they did a really good job with that. Like it looked great. So I think you're right. I think they could definitely do. You know, they don't have to invest a huge amount of money into the Poppy Playtime movie, but at the same time, one of the benefits of having a higher budget is that you can show off more, right? Because practical effects are great, and especially for horror aspects, like practical is fantastic. But when it comes to things like the environment and, you know, the Poppy Playtime factory, the Playtime Co factory is huge, right? And if we're setting it there, like that's like a lot of sets. That's like a lot of areas to cover. So more budget is always going to be better. But considering how much money the FNAF movie made, like it made far more than its budget. Like I think 10 times its budget.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think maybe they might look at that and see an opportunity there and go like, you know what, maybe let's give this movie the money that it needs.
Yeah, possibly. Since, like you said, the factory is huge. From what we've seen so far, we don't know how big it is just yet. But for example, like the daycare or playcare, my bad. Yeah, if they do decide to implement that in the movie, higher budget. Just like the main lobby and the game station, I assume that would take so much time and money just to recreate all that. If they do, based on that, because I do have my own theory and own prediction about the movie, but we can talk about that later.
For that.
Yeah, but like you said, it doesn't take too much to make these kind of movies. The FNAF movie, Willy's Wonderland are like good examples to show. Just have like a fun, campy time, you know, with it. Don't try to make it serious. With Poppy Playtime, it's kind of serious right now, but for movie wise,
right now, yeah.
But for movie wise, we don't know it because directing and making a movie from a game is completely different. It's a new route, so it can be difficult and fun, mostly difficult to recreate everything. But yeah, like I said before, we don't know anything about it yet. Maybe in the upcoming months, maybe next year, we'll see everything or see what they're working with.
Well, we know a little bit. We know they have they've already got the directors, and I cannot remember their names, so sorry in advance. But the directors, they're a married couple, and they've worked on quite a couple of bigger movies. Like he's worked on a couple of Transformers movies, and together they also worked on Real Steel, which I don't know if you've seen it. But Real Steel was Hugh Jackman, and it was like a whole robot thing. But that movie was also like really, if you watch it, like you can see again like animatronic style stuff, and again that's like kind of similar. So the directors who are going to direct the Poppy Playtime movie already have experience in Transformers and animatronic stuff, which is perfect for Poppy Playtime. So. Because the article that was posted by Mob said that it was an aggressive, and this is coming from Mob, so, you know, no offense, but pinch of salt. But they said it was an aggressive deal, which to me implies that they really wanted it, right? Like they were willing to pay more money because they wanted to get the movie, which again, they've already matched up with a director or a couple of directors that seem to know this kind of movie. So I don't know. I feel like that is leaning more into we're definitely going to see the bigger bodies in the movie, which I know we're going to come on to like our predictions shortly, but it seems, I don't know, I feel very positive about this. I feel like this seems like it was done on purpose, you know what I mean, or with purpose.
Yeah, especially since they have to switch different studios, like
a
year window, right? Like, because I assume they were talking with these guys at Legendary for a while now. We can imagine the struggles I'm getting partnered with them, so...
I mean, these things don't happen overnight. And I think the original announcement with the original studio, as far as I'm aware, this was all very speculative. Mm-hmm. And I think that there was probably, again, I don't want to speak for anybody at Mob, but there was probably a process from that point to this point of where it's like, now the ball is rolling. Oh, hang on a minute, somebody else is interested in it. And again, it implies, the article implies that there was multiple parties interested. So that also bodes well. And just going back a little minute to something that we were talking about the size of the factory too. Complete speculation, but in chapter 3 there was the poster on the wall of the park, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but this was, I think, also referenced in the book, the orientation notebook. So that could also be in the factory, and that could also be part of the movie as well, like a whole theme park somewhere in the factory. So that's like another area that would that would take budget.
Oh, definitely. If it's an amusement park, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know if that's going to be a Chapter 4 location or possibly even a project
Well, this
location,
is the weird thing, because I don't think so. I think the Chapter 4 location is pretty much set in stone, in my opinion anyway. I mean, unless something comes out completely out of left field, I'm pretty sure we're going down into the labs in the prison area in Chapter 4. And it would be really, really weird to have a theme park down there. So I'm wondering why that theme park was added now. And I'm wondering again, is that a side game, or is that something in reference to the movie that they don't want to talk about yet? Like, it seems really weird that it was a very prominent poster as well. If you look, there's like 10 of them. Like, they really wanted us to see the park. And then again, I'm fairly certain there's a reference to the park in the orientation notebook, which maybe that's not that park. Maybe it could be, the park in the middle of the play care. But I don't know, the park sounds more like that to me. So it's really odd that was just thrown out of nowhere. And I really don't think we're going there in Chapter 4. So, well, I guess I have to wait and see.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely something to speculate about. People already made their theories on it. I personally think it's going to be another location somewhere in the factory. I don't think we're going to be going down it in like how we see in Chapter 3, but I do believe it's a part of the factory. Unless, it's like an own spin-off thing, like you said. Though, there's nothing to go based off of that right now. We don't know in the upcoming months we're going to see teasers for it or anything like that. But yeah, I do agree. It's kind of like pushed in our faces a little bit with how many posters there were in the chapter. Yeah,
it was definitely a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, if they surprise us with like a spin-off game of that, I'm curious to see how that goes.
Haven't they confirmed already that there's other games in the works? I'm fairly certain they have.
Yeah, I think they're working on a new IP. That's like another separate project they're working on, besides Chapter 4.
I think the quote was something like it's going to be your new favorite game or something like that. Yeah. Is that a different IP, or is that within the Poppy universe? I'm not sure.
I do know they said that they want to expand their IP list, so it's not like they just don't want to be known as the Poppy Playtime company, right? So they want to expand their stuff. So I think it's a completely different project and universe with characters and everything like that. I don't think it's canon.
As long as they make more horror, I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, I think they want to do more horror stuff, but if they do decide to experiment on other genres, I'm all for it. I just hope they make it a fun game.
Well, all the games they've made so far have been pretty fun, so...
Yeah. So with the Poppy Playtime movie, going back with it, my basically prediction or guess for what they're going to go for is not based off the chapters, because people have been worried about, or when the announcement came out, so many people on Twitter have been arguing, saying, oh, the game's not even done yet, how are they going to do this, right? So it got me thinking about how they won't, like I said, go based off the chapters. They'll most likely do a origin story of Playtime Co. They'll showcase the golden years of Playtime Co., them doing the dark little things that they do there with the children, with the experiments, and maybe at the end of the movie, we'll see the Hour of Joy, right? So it's like what Sheep said in our podcast. He thinks it's gonna be like a documentary type of movie, right? So people are recording their experiences, showcasing what they've seen, talk about what they've seen. The horror elements is the monsters taking out the employees, getting closer to the truth. Then for the big finale, the Hour of Joy, I think it's gonna be something like that, not based off the chapters. It's funny
because my prediction is basically exactly the same, and I said this in my latest video. I think what they could do, this is just one angle they could take, is we haven't really gotten to see much of Playtime Co. I know that sounds really daft, but we know that they were terrible. We know that they were evil because we've seen stuff they've done in the past, and this is a completely unreleased theory that I haven't even started working on yet, so ignore what I'm about to say. But I still think there's potentially that the Playtime Co. is still actually active throughout the games, just to a much lesser degree. There's little hints and evidence that somebody's still doing stuff outside of the factory. But anyway, we've only seen stuff that they've done in the past and how bad that was, but we've never actually experienced it. It's always been oh, here's a little VHS snippet, or here's a little note of something terrible that they did. And in the movie, it would be, they could really go down the horror route if they had somebody who was working in Playtime Co. who didn't know what was going on. Because we know that there's a bunch of different levels of employees. There's employees like Marcus Brickley who didn't even know about the experiments. And if we were to follow somebody like that, we could start to see little creepy stuff happening. Like they could start building up the tension by, like, just as an example, maybe the employee's walking in and walks past Huggy and like notices them move out the corner of their eye and then just thinks, oh, it's just it's just the wind or something. But then things like that keep happening, and then someone goes missing, or there's this weird thing, and the protagonist is starting to investigate it, and then you can start to unravel the whole, like, oh well, this company's actually terrible, and now you're in danger because if you get caught, you're gonna get killed by the company. And then, like you say, by the end, it could be the hour of joy, and that could be like the finale of the movie, and it's like, okay, well now, it's too late, you're trapped, you're dead. And I think that could work so well because it could give you that like mystery, which was something that the FNAF movie did really, really well, was like the mystery side of it. But it didn't give you as much of the horror. Like the horror seemed really, really weak. Whereas if you were to do the horror of Poppy Playtime, like imagine being like trapped in a corridor and there's Boxy Boo roaming the corridors outside or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that could be so scary.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, I think they're going to do that because like people are worried about how they're going to do it when the game's not even done yet. I do agree. I do think it's kind of early for the movie, but if they're confident enough to go this far deep into making the movie, then they know what they're doing, especially with Legendary.
May I offer a conspiracy theory? I wonder, and this is just, I don't know anything. Mob hasn't told me anything. But as far as I'm aware, Mob started off as an animation studio, right? Like they do animations on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. And then they started moving into the video games. Now, I don't want to disparage or say anything bad about any of the developers, but Chapter 1 was very basic. It was a very basic, almost like a tech demo, more than a full game. I still loved it. I still was heavily invested into Chapter 1. I really, really enjoyed it, but it was very basic. Chapter 2 came out, and Chapter 2 was a huge improvement, but it still wasn't what I would consider, how do I say this without being really rude? It wasn't like a AAA game. It was still very much an indie game, and it was still very much limited by things. Now, Chapter 3, again, has gotten even better. Like, in so many ways, easily my favorite chapter so far. Again, really good game, but still quite limited. Like, for example, we lost the whole section, the toy store, which had to just be completely cut from the game. And there was also that underwater ride sort of thing that was also cut from the game, and there's a lot of things that were cut. And the games are still relatively, I don't want to use the word basic because that's not fair, because they are really good games, but they are relatively indie feeling still. And I wonder if, with Mob being an animation studio first, who've now sort of branched into making the games, and again, they're doing a really good job, I wonder if a movie makes even more sense for them. Because as a studio who's already used to telling stories and who's already used to doing animations, like maybe this would be the best way that they could tell the story that they wanted to tell. Because video games are really difficult to make. And I'm not saying movies are easy to make, but the challenges of making a video game are way more, in my opinion, way more technical than the challenges of making a movie. Oh, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if they always wanted to do a movie. And again, if we're correct on our theory and they do the movie as either like a sort of semi-prequel or an origin story, as you called it, then maybe this is what they really wanted to do all along. And now they've finally managed to be able to do it based on the success of the games. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder, like, this happened so soon, they must have had a plan for this. Like, it didn't just spring out of nowhere. And I really don't think they're just doing it just as a cash grab. Like, I think this is something they really believe in. Mm-hmm. You don't approach a company like Legendary unless you really believe in the thing you're trying to sell them. So, I don't know. I feel like it's fine to be concerned, and I agree. But I don't think it necessarily has to be a problem. Yeah,
like you said, them approaching movie studios for this means that they do have something they want to do already planned out. And I don't know if this is true, but like for movies, I personally think it's easier to tell a story through movies rather than games. Because for games, it's mostly all speculation. Even with the movies, it's all speculation. So it's like very interesting on what they're going to do or showcase in the movie. If they're going to go based off the chapters, that'll be more interesting because I don't know how they're going to do it. Especially since Chapter 3 is recently new. So it's like, we're pretty much gonna get like a cliffhanger, right? And them preparing for a sequel. But yeah, I do think they're gonna go down the same route for origin story wise. Like we hope they do correctly. No rushing. We're probably gonna get the movie in maybe a year or 2 years from now. So
it could even be longer than that, because we're at this point, the movie hasn't, as far as we know, hasn't even begun production. It's just landed a studio, so it could be a few years out. And by then the game could be, much further ahead than it is. But I think a lot of people are concerned because they're thinking it's going to be like what FNAF was, which FNAF was. I mean, FNAF, as far as I'm aware, again, I'm not an expert in FNAF, but as far as I'm aware, the FNAF movie was essentially just like the first game, mostly. Like, it wasn't the whole series, right? Mm-hmm. So I wonder, like, they don't have to do the same thing as what FNAF did. They could completely create a side story or a backstory or a pre-story and slot it into the game. And loads of things do this, like loads of, there's loads of adaptations that already do this kind of thing. But they could have it where it's like, if you've played the games and you know the lore and you know the references, there's going to be like a bunch of Easter eggs for you, and that's great. But as long as the movie is like a good, solid movie, it can stand by itself. And it doesn't even have to affect the game in any way. It can be like an additional thing, like, oh, you understood this reference, you get what all this means because you played the games. That's great. Or if you don't and you're going into a movie, this is just a fun horror movie for you. Like, I understand the concerns, but I think that the Five Nights at Freddy's situation and the Poppy Playtime situation are completely different. And I have to be entirely honest, hot take of the day, the fifth one. The FNAF games took a long time before they really got good. Like, the games were... I don't like the first few FNAF games. I love the lore, I love the story, but the games were so painful for me to play. I've never actually finished a FNAF game aside from Security Breach, because I just don't enjoy them. So the FNAF took, in my opinion, FNAF took a lot longer before it really established itself, whereas Poppy Playtime has established itself a lot quicker. And that's because they've done so well at making the free chapters. So I don't know. For me, it's not a problem. I think it doesn't have to be an issue,
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially because Scott was the only one that made the first few games. So, but this is a whole studio, so they have pretty much the lore most likely already written down. They know how Poppy Playtime's gonna end, so it's like more development, more story, writing. They know what they know what to put down. But Scott was just one guy, right?
Sure. And again, I don't want to disparage Scott at all, because the games were immensely popular for a reason. Lots of people love those games. But as far as I'm aware, that the original Five Nights at Freddy's was kind of an accident. He made it because his first game that he made, which was supposed to be an educational game for children, and everyone poked fun at it and said it was scary. And so then he was like, right, well, if everyone thinks my game's scary, I'm going to make a scary game then. And he made it. And so I think you're right. Like, I don't think he really had a plan for it, whereas Mob clearly do. But Mob obviously are storytellers. Like, that's what they've built their brand on already, is telling stories. And so again, for me, it just makes sense. Like, why wouldn't a storytelling studio want to tell a story on the big screen? Like, whereas again, Five Nights at Freddy's, it was a completely different situation.
This is very interesting. I just think this whole thing is very intriguing. They approach the studios, like I said, so I do think they're ready, but I don't know. I just don't think they're fully in the know on what to do, because, like I said, movies are way different than games to make. So it's like a whole different process.
Mob won't be making it, though. This is the whole point, right? They'll have their story, and they will give that over to the studio, and the studio will create it. So, and those, obviously, the studio that's what they do. They produce movies. So maybe like this is a potential risk, because sometimes studios want to change things. They know that, oh, this might not work on cinema, or like the audience might not enjoy this so much. So there's probably going to be a little bit of a give and take there. But Mob have the story. Legendary clearly wanted to buy it, and they want to tell it. So I just think it's going to be an additional thing, and I think it's like a lot of things. Even if it comes out bad, even if it turns out that it's terrible, well then that's fine. Just don't ever watch it again. Like just pretend it doesn't exist. Or as long as they don't retcon the story, as long as they don't go, no, now this is the official Poppy Playtime story and the games don't matter, which I can't see them ever doing that, then it doesn't really need to be a problem. Like it's just an additional thing that you have now to enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. I do agree with that, though. I hope they don't change the lore for the movie and like that.
Same.
Yeah, I hope they don't do that. Stay true to the story. I hope there's no two separate universes. Like, oh no, I'm talking about the Poppy Playtime movie universe, not the game universe. We don't want that situation.
Yeah. Well, again, that's what happened with Five Nights at Freddy's. They changed parts of the lore, so now it's like, well, which one is officially canon? And it's like, this one's different, so one of them has to be canon and one of them doesn't have to be canon. So it's like, I don't know. I hate to like rag on Five Nights at Freddy's because obviously I prefer Poppy as an overall thing. I prefer Poppy, and it's only because I started creating theories for it and I enjoyed the games. Whereas if Five Nights at Freddy's, I just watched the theories for it. I didn't make any of my own. So obviously I'm biased. So I don't want it to sound like I'm ragging on Five Nights at Freddy's, but Five Nights at Freddy's, I don't know. Like, I watched it as somebody who's not an expert on the games, and there was some stuff that I understood, and then there's some stuff that I had no idea about. But then people were telling me that this was completely changed. Like, I forget the character's name, but Afton's daughter, apparently, like, that whole character was changed. Vanessa,
it was. Yeah, she was changed. Yeah, it's weird.
So it's like, yeah, I hope they don't really do that. But then at the same time, with Poppy Playtime, there aren't really that many characters that are actually done anything. Like, we don't know who we are. We've only seen snippets of the main department heads. We've not really seen all that many characters, so it's not really like there's that many characters to fully change. It's more about the bigger bodies. So they could probably do like adding completely new characters that we've never seen before. We just get more backstory, more lore, and then everyone's happy, right?
Kind of. The problem with Vanessa and the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, I personally don't like her just because she was basically there to dump the whole lore on Mike. It's like, she's basically just a lore dumper character, which I hope they don't do for Poppy Playtime.
Which this was one of my criticisms too, because again, I'm not an expert on the lore, so I was looking forward to learning more about the lore in the Five Nights at Freddy movie, but it felt like at a certain point in the movie, it all just became about here's all of the lore, and the horror was just thrown out the window. Like, I can't believe. Sorry, I'm going on a rant now. I can't believe, like, all of the games up until a certain point were all about being trapped in a room and, having to manage the doors and all that lot. And they never did that sequence in the movie. They never had a moment where he had to, like, panicking, closing the doors and trying to save it. Like, how could you miss that out of the movie? Like, there was no, like, animatronic survival segment for him.
Oh, no. They completely missed all the iconic elements that made Five Nights at Freddy's popular in the first place.
Exactly.
I don't know how they messed that up.
It's crazy. And like I said, I still enjoyed the movie. I know people think I hated it, but it did feel like at a certain point the movie was only about the lore, and like you say, there was just big exposition dumps, and I don't know. I feel like the Poppy Playtime movie, if it's done well, they can show not tell. And this is like storytelling number one, is like show don't tell. Show the factory being creepy, show the I keep wanting to say animatronics, but show the bigger bodies moving in the background or whatever when people aren't looking. Show all the horrific things that are happening, but show them in a way that these people don't understand them, rather than going, oh, we're doing experiments on children. Just show things happening and then let the audience figure it out. Because there'll be a bunch of people, I'm sure, who've never played a Poppy Playtime game, never seen a YouTube video, that are going to go into the movie and have no idea what's going on.
Correct. That's pretty much the problem with Five Nights at Freddy's. There's so many people who watched it who weren't fans of it, and it left them more confused than answered, right? But for the Poppy Playtime movie, this would probably attract more people to come watch the movie to get into the game. I do hope that's the case. Yeah, I do hope they pull that off. But like I said, I do agree that I would want to see that for the Poppy Playtime movie, where we have a main protagonist, or maybe we can follow multiple protagonists along in the game, and in the movie, and they're pretty much discovering little bit by bit on what's actually going on in the factory, right? Just not full on, oh yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that, right? Yeah, that would be kind of lame. But I would love for the audience, us, while watching the movie, to figure out what's been going on, or see what's actually happening, right? Putting two and two together, not just basically having the whole thing dumped on us.
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the best things, one of the biggest opportunities that they have is showing a lot of the stuff that they've not really been able to show in the games, because we had like a flashback sequence in chapter 3, and that was cool and all, but we've never really seen the factory in its heyday, like when it's actually working, because we know that this factory, this company was terrible. Like, every single chapter we learned that they were even more terrible than we first thought, right? Like with let's just take for example Marie Payne, who became Mommy Longlegs. We now know that she was, subjected to the red smoke and was having nightmares, and even the book goes into even more detail on this. And that was worse than we thought. Like, it's already bad enough that, children are being used to be transferred into bigger bodies.
True.
But we now know more about that. So imagine the movie, we could actually see Marie Payne when she was a child, and we could see things like that, where it's like, oh, there's this young girl and she's like really sad about something, and like, oh, what's your name? I'm Marie. Like, imagine how your mind's going to be blown in that moment where you're like, oh my God, that's Mommy Longlegs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that would be so cool.
Exactly. And I hope we get to see when the kids being turned into the monsters, right? To see how that actually went down. For example, imagine getting to see Theodore turn into Catnap, or the prototype getting caught, right? Like, to see all those events happen, and leading up to the Hour of Joy event. But I just don't know if it's just going to end with the Hour of Joy, and then at the end it showcases 10 years later, and then that's the start of the chapters, right? Like, I would prefer for them to stay in the past, not showcase the chapters just yet, right? Maybe the first movie can be about the origins of Playtime Code, and the second one can be about the chapters, maybe. That's if Poppy Playtime even finishes, in that time.
Sure. Well, again, this is why I think it makes sense for them to do a prequel or origin story, because, like I say, if you ended it at the Hour of Joy, let's just say there was somebody who was slowly figuring out stuff was going on, and they're getting close to the truth, kind of like a Rowan Stoll kind of incident, and then the Hour of Joy happens, and so that's how they end up dying, and they don't actually make it out of the factory, so they never actually get to tell anyone the truth. And then, like you say, then that leads into the game, so they could either then, the sequel could then be the events of the game, which would make sense, or they have 10 years in between that, so they could even do more if they wanted to. Like, they could even do another movie before that happens, or like there's so many things that they could do. Like, they have so much more freedom, because when you make a video game, first of all, you have to think about all of the mechanics, like you've got to put in puzzles and things like that, and you're limited to, we're inside the factory. But a movie, they could go outside of the factory too. They could have other characters, they could have other threads. There's so much more that they can do, that they could still do this in the games, but it would be so much more difficult. Like, imagine having just a whole other section outside of the factory, like a whole other character. You'd get confused. You'd be like, who am I playing as now? So, like, there's a lot of limitations in the games, and I think that, again, this is just, it feels like a freedom to me, and I'm very excited if they do it well. Yeah,
that's the one thing I really hope they do. Do it well, please. Like, I'm excited for the Bendy movie, right? For example, that's another indie horror movie that's coming out.
Wait, there's a Bendy movie?
Yeah. They announced it like last month, I think. They showcased the picture. Yeah.
I have to be honest, I'm so behind on Bendy stuff, because okay, confession time. I don't get them. I've played the first game like twice, and I've played the second game once, and I don't really fully get what's going on. It confuses my little brain. I don't get it. So I don't really like pay too much attention to it. Like, when a new game comes out, I go, oh, I'll play that. I like the last one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can never quite wrap my head around it. I think it's because I played it late. I didn't play it when it was because wasn't Bendy 1 chapters?
Yeah, they were chapter based. The Dark Revival was the whole game.
Yeah, so I played the first game after it was already fully finished, and then I played the second game on release. So I didn't get it in chapters. So I think I missed like a lot of like in between conversations and things.
Yeah, the only difference is that Bendy is finished, right? Like, the first game is finished, the second one is finished, so making a movie could be easier for them. They can base the movie off the first game, right? And that's pretty much why people are more concerned about the Poppy movie. That's just a big thing. It's not finished yet, so how are they going to make a movie? And yeah, an origin story just makes the most sense right now. Yeah, I think it's a valid. I want to make this clear. It's a valid concern. It is absolutely a valid concern that the main game isn't finished, and we're already. It feels like they're already moving on to another project. But obviously, the games are still going to be made by the people making the games. The movie's going to be made by the people making the movies. It's going to be completely separate. And again, if they're smart about it, the one should feed into the other. I mean, look what happens with Fallout recently. The Fallout show, which kind of came out of nowhere, it was so good, everyone loved it, that people are jumping back on Fallout, which they haven't had a game in nearly a decade, or not like a single player game in almost a decade. So people are jumping so hard back onto the Fallout games,
And that series in itself is a whole mess because it's like, well, which game do you play? And like, do you go for the Bethesda one or the Obsidian one? Or like, do I start with 3 or New Vegas or 4 or like, what's the multiplayer one? I nearly said Infinite. It's not Fallout Infinite. It's Fallout 76. So like that, like the Fallout show, all it's done has been a net positive and made people excited about Fallout. And I don't see why Poppy Playtime can't be the same thing. It's like, here's a net positive that you didn't have before. Now you have more lore, more theories to make, more things to talk about. And yeah, I just it should, if they do it correctly, be a net positive.
Yeah. And I gotta be honest, I never played any of the Fallouts, so I don't know anything about it. But with the movies, or even, let's say they come out with the show, Poppy Playtime show, whatever, that could bring in more audience to hop on the game. And another good example of this is when Chapter 3 released in January. I think like 2,000 or 3,000 more players got onto Project Playtime just because of Chapter 3.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a huge... Yeah, exactly. It always brings the interest back. You know, now that you mention it, I'm kind of surprised there isn't like an official Poppy Playtime TV show or YouTube series or something. Because the VHS that they did for Chapter 3, like the 3 VHS, the Huggy, Kissy, and Bron, they were really good. I really liked those. So I'm surprised they've never done like a full series, you know, like even if it was like an animated one. I mean, unless they have and I'm not aware of it. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised there isn't one.
Yeah, they should. People, myself included, have been enjoying the VHS tapes. Whenever they showcase those, they're pretty interesting. Like, I hope they do make a series, maybe like VHS style like that. Maybe give pieces of lore and everything through those, because they are very interesting. Like they're both on YouTube and even in the games. So
look at the Huggy one. I mean, that really showed a completely different side to Huggy Wuggy. Like, yeah, he was aggressive in Chapter 1, but in that VHS, it showed him as like almost a completely different character, and we got to see just how scary he could be. Which, by the way, I don't know if you're aware of my hottest of takes, because I want to get your opinion on this one. I'm still on Team Huggy Lives, and I'm still convinced that we're going to see Huggy Wuggy again in a future chapter. How do you feel about that?
For me, I'm like, I have to see a body to confirm it's dead, right?
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
like that. I have to see a body. I have to see his head full on destroyed or any of that to see. But yes. Yeah, if I don't see any body, he's probably still alive somewhere.
I had to get this one out there because I've made so many videos where I've talked about Huggy Wuggy and all the little hints that Mob have been giving, and obviously in Chapter 3 we got the fake Huggy, we got the nightmare Huggy, but it's crazy how Huggy Wuggy is the face of this franchise way more than Poppy is, and they killed him off in Chapter 1 after a very brief chase scene, and I just cannot in my head. I can't accept that would be the only interaction we'd have with him, especially with that VHS of him being like completely feral. And this is what we could also see in the movie too. Like we could see that side of him better because we never really got to see it. In Chapter 1, he has like little, he's watching us, he's peeking at us, and then all of a sudden he's chasing us and then he's gone. And that's it. And we never saw that like really aggressive, scary side to him. So maybe we'll get that in the movie. Well, I'm sure we will, but I think we should get it in the games too. Hashtag Huggy Lives.
Yeah, I'm actually more convinced that he's still alive because there's just no way.
Yeah, take that, haters.
Like how can you kill off your face from the game?
This is what I'm saying. And look at Five Nights at Freddy's. Look at Springtrap, and like it gets progressively more damaged and comes back creepier every time. Like they have such an opportunity to do that with Huggy. Like imagine Huggy where half of his like face is like missing, or like he's like got metal skeleton parts sticking out, and now he's really angry because we tried to kill him. So yeah, it's such an opportunity, and obviously think about all of the the merch opportunities and all of that lot. I'll happily take a damaged Huggy merch. Just saying.
Same here. Especially since they're really pumping out the Smiling Critter plushies, right?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the unicorn, Craftycorn. Why did I have to think about that one? Yeah, I'm waiting for the Craftycorn. Craftycorn's my favorite.
Oh yeah, Dog Day and I think Hoppy and Bobby are my favorites, and Catnap obviously, right?
They're all cool. I just wish we got a little bit more of them. In the like it would have been nice to see more bigger versions, but yeah, it is what it is.
It's like I just find it weird how in the chapters, like Chapter 2 and 3, for example, we get to see the bigger body's monster's body, right, when they die, but with Huggy we don't. I'm not sure if that's just like a thing they decided after chapter 1, right? Like saying, oh well, we made a mysterious death, quote unquote, for Huggy. Why not we just show the bodies now, right? I'm not sure if it's
This is actually like a massive misconception. I've been meaning to mention this in a video before, because I get a lot of comments being like, oh, we definitely know Huggy's dead because you saw him on the shrine in chapter 3. And I went and had a little look at that because a certain special someone helped me figure that stuff out. Thank you for that, by the way. And you can see on the shrine that there is a Huggy and a Kissy, and they're the same size. So either that means that means that there are multiple bigger Huggies and Kissies, or that isn't the same Huggy from chapter 1, because we know Kissy's still alive and Kissy's on the statue. So why would there be 2 Kissies but only 1 Huggy? So that isn't a point of evidence. The only evidence we've actually had whether Huggy's alive or dead after chapter 1 is the blue fur that was placed in chapter 2. And that was clearly placed there with blood splatters for a reason. And in my humble opinion, there's one of 2 reasons why that blood and fur was there. One, because Huggy's alive and he lifted himself up, and I actually have another theory on that one from the book. Or 2, the prototype dragged him up. And I think both are equally possible, but we've seen the prototype take every other body that he wants to take. We've seen him take Mommy, and we've seen him take Catnap. So they obviously could have shown off the prototype, which I guess at the end of chapter 2 they kind of had the reveal of the prototype. But why would they not show him taking Huggy and they'd show him taking all the others? You know what I mean? It seems a little weird, and we still don't actually know what he's doing with those bodies either. Not 100%. So
no, it's just all speculation about how he's like rebuilding himself.
Yeah. I know. But Ollie did say in chapter 3, "Oh, wait till you see the real thing," when talking about the shrine. So again, I think that is a hint that is what he's doing. But I don't know. I feel like it seems like such a weird thing to kill off your main character, then tease him again in chapter 2, and then be like, "Oh yeah, but he's still dead though." Like, I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I have to see a body, like I said. I have to see a body to confirm he's actually
Are you also
dead.
like a Game of Thrones Walking Dead fan? Because those 2 shows have cemented that in my head. If you don't see them die, they're not dead.
Mm-hmm. I'm a Walking Dead fan. I haven't seen Game of Thrones.
Same sort of situation, yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. I have to see a body. Like, you can't just say, "Oh yeah, he fell down a ditch. He like fell into the dark abyss." Even if we hear like a big bang, like him landing, we don't know if that's his body, right? Like, we have to see him physically die.
Yes.
We just can't take a word for it.
It's weird because, and this is like a very typical horror thing, but it's weird that how it seems to be kind of inconsistent on how much damage the toys can take before they die. Because Mommy got her arm caught, and I guess some of her body got crumpled in the machine, and then she seemed to be dead, or she could have been knocked out, but she seems to be dead. Whereas, and so same thing with Mr. Light, she got the door dropped on her and she dies. But then you see Dog Day, who's been ripped in half, completely fine, just chatting away like nothing's up. So it's like, I wonder, like, what are the rules? Like, is there a certain part of the body you got to get, like the heart or the brain, or, you know what I mean? Like, because Huggy fell, but does that necessarily mean he's going to die? I don't know.
No, I think it's either the heart or the head. Because Mommy's body got crushed where the heart is. Catnap got stabbed through the head, within the mouth. So I think it's both those 2 areas, like humanly. But for Dog Day, we don't know for Dog Day because we don't see him die either. He's just chilling down there, so we don't know if he's still alive or he'll make another return. Yeah,
I mean, you make a good point. I mean, they take over his body and they start controlling him, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's dead either. Like, you're not wrong. But when he's hung up, he is like, his whole lower half is gone. And he's fine. And somebody did mention in the comments that it looks like his belt was used as a tourniquet, which is supposed to, like stop the blood flow. But I don't think you can survive for very long if your whole lower half is missing. I'm not a doctor. Don't recommend you try this. But like, I don't think you can survive that long with both like of your legs missing. I don't know. I don't know where the rules are. And it could be just like a horror thing of like, oh, he was probably dying slowly, but I don't know.
Yeah, because they are real people too, so it would make sense that they still have
Arguably.
human. Yeah, yeah, like we don't know if their bodies still work as humans, the same way. But
I don't want to spoil too much of the Notebook because there's actually so much lore in the Notebook that I actually probably should make some videos on. But the Notebook also implied that this whole scientific process isn't actually that complicated as well. There was a line that was something along the lines of it's more simple than you think, or it's not as complicated as you think, or something like that. In relation to Poppy and how Poppy was created. So it's weird how they seem to have done this process quite a few times, not always successfully for sure, but they've done this process quite a few times, and apparently it's not that complicated. Yet, for everything that I know of psychology, I have a psychology degree. Everything that I know of psychology is this shouldn't be possible. This physically doesn't work because your brain has essentially a map of your body in the brain, and if you were to transfer your brain into another body that was a different size, it wouldn't work. Your brain wouldn't be able to figure it out. Mm-hmm. So there's something, again, science fiction, horror, it's made up. This isn't real. I get that. But I'm getting into real theory territory here. I don't know if this is actually some sort of like magic at this point, or, is there more to it? Or is this, if it's just science, well then if it's just science and the bigger bodies are running on essentially blood and fuel, well then they need a heart, they need a brain, right? Like they should need muscles, but I guess the muscles could be artificial. But the more scientific this is, the more biologically frail they would be, right? So it's like you could, for example, are they transferring the souls, or are they just transferring the brain? Because that's two very different, you know what I mean? Because souls, and this is something, sorry, I'm getting on such a rant, such a tangent. The CG5's video had a weird hint about ghosts. And there's been weird hints about ghosts in chapter 3 too. And I'm like, is there a souls element to this whole thing? I don't know. So could you transfer mommy into a new body, for example? I don't know.
Yeah, I never thought about that actually. I just thought they just transferred the brain to the toys. I didn't think about the whole soul thing.
But that might be right. Like it might just be the brain. It might because they call it a scientific process, right? And my argument though is if it is just a scientific process, it's really easy to destroy a brain. And if you have to transfer the brain into these toys, then they are actually more frail than you think. But they seem to be very durable. Like I say, Dog Day can survive with his whole lower half being chopped off. And he must have been there for a while, right? Like, he can't have just been caught. Like, he has to have been there for a while. So, I mean, again, we assume. So I don't know. I feel like him just being able to just chill out there, because he didn't even seem to be in pain or anything. He was just like, hi, oh, you're Poppy's angel. Yeah, I'm him. I'm here. Like, he did, I don't know.
Yeah, right? Like, if he was in pain, then yeah, that pretty much confirms about the whole slowly dying thing. Yeah, going back to the confirmation about the dead body, like, we have to see a body to see. People speculated, and I was one of these people at first, but I quickly ditched the idea. When in chapter 3, when we first interacted with Poppy and Kissy, when we were going down the elevator, Poppy said that that we are the chosen one pretty much, and that we killed Huggy and we killed Mommy. So I thought right there, I was like, oh, that pretty much confirms it. But then I quickly ditched the idea because we haven't seen it, and how could she possibly know?
Yeah. Well, this was my original theory. This was one of the things I made pretty quickly after finishing chapter 3. Was she? I still am also on Team Poppy is evil. I really do. I have a whole theory behind this. For anyone who's not familiar with my channel, one of my biggest theories about Poppy is that Poppy's been lying to us from day one. She always seems to conveniently, I'll tell you later, like, oh, I can't tell you right now, I'm too busy, or oh, I'll tell you later. She betrayed us at the end of chapter 2, which was massively hinting that she has an ulterior motive. She went from being very cute and, oh, I'll save you, I'll get you out of the factory, to being like, haha, you're going to stay with me and fix things. And people have said, like, yeah, okay, she's trying to do the right thing, but the way she was talking doesn't sound like a good person to me. She sounds like she has an evil streak. So my whole theory is that Poppy is actually the main bad guy, and that 1006 is not. Like 1006, even though I think is a bad guy, I don't think they're intentionally a bad guy. Whereas I think Poppy wants revenge on 1006. And that's been my theory for a long, long time. So in my opinion, Poppy's the brains of this whole thing, right? She's been there for a long time watching things. No one suspects her because she's tiny too. She's like the tiniest of all of them. So she's the innocent one. Like no one cares about Poppy, right? Mommy was bold enough to like, entrap her and all this lot. But we still had giant warnings in chapter 1 saying stay away from Poppy. So if you track that trajectory, if Poppy is the big bad and Poppy is the evil mastermind, whatever it was that happened at the end of chapter 3 surprised her. She was shocked and she started the elevator going back up again. And she goes, what's going on? Or I can't remember the exact words that she used, but she's not accounted for this. And she specifically says, you killed Huggy. And now something is suddenly shocking her because she thinks Huggy's dead. And we know he's not dead. That's my theory anyway. That's my theory. Do you want to know my crazy crackpot theory on how I think potentially Huggy is still alive and the orientation notebook might have even confirmed it? So all the way back in chapter 2, there was a barrel of Huggies in the rejected toy area. And you see like the Huggies like linking their arms together. And I made like a funny joke, like, ha ha ha, I wonder if the mini Huggies did this to lift Huggy back up, right? The orientation notebook has a reference to this about how you can tie unlimited Huggies together. And I'm just like, and they use Velcro on their hands. And I'm like, I'm telling you, we know now there's loads of mini Huggies too, because there's, we see them in the the CG5's video. We see in the VHS, the Bron VHS, we see a bunch of the mini Huggies. We see them in Project Playtime in the trailer for that.
And they were even in chapter 2.
Yeah, chapter 2. So there's potential possible that the mini Huggies did that for him.
Yeah, that would make sense because we've technically seen, one visually in chapter 3, we've seen the Smiting Critters control Dog Day, right? So it is possible that they can climb inside a monster and control them pretty much. And now we pretty much have a second confirmation that the little creatures or monsters can do that. They can get together and hold up a monster or control a monster. So I guess that is canon.
Plus, if you look at how far down that drop goes, because you can actually drop down there, you can get out of the map and drop down there. But if there's a beam underneath where you see the blue fur in chapter 2, there's a beam underneath that also has blood on it, and it implies that Huggy has climbed up from that beam and then gone up the wall and gone into the vents. And we know Huggy loves his vents. But if the prototype did lift him up, how did he reach that far down? Like, we've only ever seen him to have like a relatively short arm. Like, I don't think his arm extends that long. So how did he reach that far down? Even if it was 1006, he must have had help. Like, he must have had help doing it.
Yeah, unless he was conveniently down there where Huggy fell, but I don't think that's the case.
I don't even think that would be possible though, because it looks like the blue fur and the blood on the wall looks like Huggy's body was like dragged across it. So either he was pulling himself up or he was being dragged up. So if the prototype went down there, why would he then push him up? Like, how would he push him up? It seems, I don't know, physically it seems impossible, but never say never. But I think it would make so much sense to bring him back. And if you listen to the sound file as well at the end of chapter 3, you hear essentially 2 screams. And the first one sounds exactly like the jump scare in chapter 1 when Huggy catches you. So my working theory is that Huggy ambushed Kissy. And even recently I had a theory because in the guidebook, it says that Huggy and Kissy are made in the exact same way, just with pink fur. So it's like, so Huggy has a damaged body because we dropped him, and look, here's a convenient new body.
Yeah, I see where you're going. Yeah.
Again, I should probably make this video. I should probably do some work and make this video.
Yeah, that would make sense actually. If he's damaged, why not take some of Kissy's body to repair himself, right? If they're identically the same. Yeah,
like if he's missing an arm or something, he could take that from Kissy. Or maybe he's just angry at Kissy because Kissy's working with Poppy and Poppy's the enemy according to 1006. So I don't know. It all seems to make sense.
Yeah, isn't like the prototype it's not confirmed, but there's like multiple speculation that prototype is possibly the main good person. Like, isn't he like theorized as Elliot Ludwig?
Yeah. So I mean, I can only speak for my own theory. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but my theory on that one was, So 1006 is incredibly intelligent, incredibly crafty, and Elliot Ludwig seems to have been the genius behind everything at Playtime Co. And so obviously the main theory is that Elliot was transferred into 1006, and that's why 1006 is so clever. But the only one thing against that theory is the idea that Elliot was supposedly like this really good man who really cared about children, and then 1006 is apparently this big bad evil who's so terrible. But we're only really getting that he's so terrible from Poppy, because everything we've seen so far, yes, he took Mommy after she died. Yes, he took Catnap as he was dying, which again, I still think that kill was a mercy because he was on fire and he was clearly going to die and he was in pain, writhing around on the floor. So, my theory was 1006 was like, listen, I'll put you out of your misery and then I'll take you to the shrine or whatever it is I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So we've never actually seen 1006 do anything bad. But then Poppy tells us that we have to kill him. She's told us that we have to kill him, we have to stop him, but never told us why. Not once.
True. That's pretty much like her motive for both chapters, right? Just to kill the actual monster.
Yeah, but she's painting 1006 as this big bad monster that we've got to kill. But if you think about what actually has happened throughout the game, we arrived at the factory, Huggy saw us, didn't attack us until we got close to Poppy. We got close to Poppy, he attacked, we dropped him, right? So we potentially killed Huggy. Then we went to Poppy, who we were told not to release. We were specifically warned not to release her. We went and released her. Poppy then said she was going to help us out of the factory, but then she was kidnapped by Mommy Longlegs. We went and killed Mommy Longlegs, and then rather than letting us out of the factory, like she said, she betrayed us and held us here against our will. Now in chapter 3, she basically used us to get rid of Catnap, right? She kept telling us, oh, Catnap's coming to get you, Catnap's coming to get you, which again, Catnap had so many opportunities to kill us throughout chapter 3 and never did. He kept warning us. He kept saying, leave my home. And it was only when we got close to Poppy at the end of, the lift that he attacked us. Again, it was the last, we were given warning, because we were given warning in chapter 1 too with the VHS tape, which was conveniently left there, by the way. We were given warning to leave. So we were once again given warning, and it was only when it was no other option that Catnap attacked us. So none of this behavior seems like he really wants us dead. It seems that, like, if anything, he just wants us to leave. Whereas Poppy is like, no, you've got to kill 1006. Got to kill him. He's terrible. He's bad. Why though? Like, if I'm going to ask you to kill someone for me, I'm going to tell you why. And she showed us she did show us the Hour of Joy. And if you compare the VHS tape of the Hour of Joy to the CG5's video, it does seem like Poppy was genuinely scared in that moment. But the reason why I think Poppy was scared in that moment was because they were killing the staff. And potentially Poppy is ex-staff. Potentially Poppy is Stella. This is my working theory. However, why were they killing the staff? They were killing the staff because the staff were torturing them, stopping them from getting adopted, and keeping them in the factory to experiment on them to use them as cheap labor. None of that sounds like a good thing to do to orphan children, right? Giving them nightmares, pumping them full of gas to keep them asleep because you can't be bothered to answer their questions at night. This is evil stuff. They were an evil company. All they were doing, again, the Hour of Joy was painted as this horrible massacre, which it was, but it was freeing the children. It was so that the children could be free, because it's not their fault they were put in the bigger bodies. They didn't choose it, right? There's a lot of lies, is all I'm saying. Oh yeah, especially this. This is like the most evil company that I've seen in any horror game so far. But yeah, I was just about to ask, because I know what was the Hour of Joy about, right? I know the event and everything, but I was just thinking about what was the actual real cause of that, right? Because wasn't it just a random day, like August 8th? The notebook potentially disproves that it was a random day. Again, so for the viewers, Nized hasn't fully read the book yet, so I'm trying not to spoil too much, but there's a calendar at the back of the book, and the Hour of Joy just so happens to land on a very specific day. And on, I don't know if this is just a little hint, but it seems like the Hour of Joy was planned. And there's also a really cool explanation as well for why the company was struggling too. Because we know the Bigger Bodies initiative in part the reason why it was set up was because the company was really struggling financially. And the book gives us a reason for that now too. It makes so much sense. I can't believe I never put two and two together. But the Smiling Critters fiasco where catnaps were sent out with the red smoke, actually caused in a big part caused the company's downfall, because the amount of PR, it was a PR disaster, right? And so that PR disaster was so damaging to the company that it kind of started pushing them towards, financial struggle. And in fact, there's a whole theory that I need to make on that, because I think we may have potentially got an explanation for the letters now too. The letters and the slides. Yeah. It seems like there's a good explanation for that in that book as well. So buy the book, guys. Buy the book. It's really good.
Yeah, and little spoiler warning here. I just looked up for the calendar in the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. On August 8th, new play care schedule comes in. Interesting. Yep.
So it was like the way that I interpreted that was a changeover of staff date. And so it was probably the time where there were less security and less playcare staff. So it was an opportune time. So it seems like it was planned. And we also know that 1006 was looking for something. He sent Theodore to go and find some files. We still don't know what those files are. But before he had his escape attempt, which again, everyone conveniently forgets that 1006 did try to leave and he was successful. He only stayed to save Theo, again, catnap. So yeah, it seems like he was looking for something. I still think he was looking for evidence to get the factory shut down. Because again, if 1006 is Elliot, or was Elliot, and this is not what he set his company up for. He set his company up to help children. And now the company, because of the financial struggles, were using the children as a resource and experimenting on them against their will, which, if you haven't seen my one of my latest theories, my theory was that the transfer process originally started as a way to save lives, because Elliot had a death in his family. And I really do think that Poppy was, because there was hints in chapter 2, which again was trying to paint like Elliot as this bad guy, but they found a body at his home. But we know that they can transfer children's consciousness into bigger bodies, but then what happened to the previous body? Like, it's still around, right? So if we assume that body at his house was somebody that he transferred into a toy, something that he seemed really like he was desperately trying to do, well, why was he trying to do that? He was probably trying to save somebody's life. And again, if that's the way that 1006 started, that Elliot started, and now he sees his company being used in this terrible, evil way, no wonder he's going to try and stop it, right? And he tried to stop it. And what happened to him when he got caught? When he tried to leave and alert the authorities and he got caught, what happened to him? He was put in prison and tortured by Harley Sawyer. Mm-hmm. So, no, like, this is his last, like, you know what I mean? Like, this was his last shot, right? Like, this wasn't something that he wanted to do.
No. Yeah, I mostly see him as an actual good person, right? But still, with the prototype, we still don't know what his true intentions are, like, behind the scenes with the bodies, right?
Sure.
Yeah, with the speculation, we do know he's trying to stop the company now, but I don't know. I just don't. Well, I'm actually thinking about the time period right now. I forgot about the past. How because when he got caught, it was before the Hour of Joy, I assume, right? Before the whole company, before the company got shut down. So yeah, I was just thinking about the present time, which I'm not. So
it's funny because now that we have like a lot more information since chapter 3, but I have not seen a lot of people really compile it all together. But yeah, there was an escape attempt while Theo was still human, right? Theo was still human. 1006 convinced him to find some files and also convinced him to operate the green grab pack so that he could escape. He did escape. Like, the door was open. He was about to leave the factory, which also the guidebook implies that there are multiple entrances to the factory, which is really interesting. But he was about to leave. Theodore gets electrocuted and is dying. He sacrifices his attempt to escape, takes Theo back, funnily enough, to Thomas Clark, who is he was a pediatrician. He was a staff member who ended up turning into Bron. He takes him back to Thomas Clark. He gets captured. Harley Sawyer interrogates him. And then 1006, we have that whole conversation in chapter 3 where he's talking to Harley Sawyer and he has that moment of like, thank you. And he's like, you're thanking me. And he's like, yeah, you basically just revealed that you're a terrible person and I'm justifying what I'm about to do. We also find out in chapter 3 that something happens to Harley Sawyer and nobody seems to be talking about it. And there's also been hints in the Discord that we're going to see the Doctor in chapter 4. Something happens to Harley Sawyer and he was out, as Leith Pierre put it. So what happened to him? Was he killed? Was he transferred? Like, there's that lingering question. But like, we have like a really decent timeline now of the events leading up to the Hour of Joy, and then it's just there's little gaps missing.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a lot. Because I do remember that VHS tape where it was Leaf. Yeah, Leaf Pierre. He said the doctor is currently out. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and then he says looking for their replacement. So why would he be looking for his replacement? He either got fired, which we know they don't really get fired, especially, you know, they're not going to let him go because he knows everything, right? So what happened to him? My speculation on that one is that 1006 got him. Because 1006 knew he was evil, and he was hoping that maybe by killing Sawyer or, you know, transferring him or whatever, that would stop it all. But by that point, it was too late. The company was going in that direction, you know?
Yeah. I actually wonder, when the company was, you know, was like in his glory days and Elliot was still alive, was he like fully in the know what Hardy Sawyer was doing, or even what's his name, Jimmy? Because I know Jimmy in the book, he's like pretty much one of the main heads too, right? He wasn't almost in charge of everything, but, you know, Harley is like the Bigger Bodies Initiative. But Elliot was like, obviously he was the CEO and founder, but like, did he know what was going on in his own company at the time?
I don't think so. So it's really, this is where it gets really murky, because we know that Stella was really high up in the company. She was head of Playcare, head of the whole Playcare. And even she, at one point, wasn't informed that one of her children was being sent to be experimented on, and she's surprised by this, which to me implies that there were like this has been a theory for a long time now, that there's certain factions within the factory. And I think the way that it worked was Elliot was the one who started it all. He was genuinely a good man, but he started the research to save a child's life. He was like, every child deserves a life, you know, every child deserves a smile. And he started that research to save one person. We kind of get a confirmation in the book that he did die. I'm going to put air quotes around die, because he's noted as the late Elliot, like he's dead. He's human form anyway. We don't know if he got transferred. But once he died or was transferred, either way, the company had to have been passed down to someone, because you can't run a company if you're dead, right? Like, you have to anoint a new CEO. You have to have somebody like going to meetings, because they had meetings with other companies and stuff. They even had a company away day in the calendar that got cancelled. So he must have passed it down. And the way that I think it worked was it was passed down to like department heads. Maybe there was somebody who was the top again, like somebody who was the head. But the department heads almost had more power when he was gone. It's like a power vacuum, right? He's gone, and now all of a sudden everyone kind of wants to be the top dog. Everyone wants to rule the company because the company's, you know, so profitable. Harley Sawyer just wanted to do his mad experiments, but other people probably wanted the money, they wanted the power. So all of these different like powerful people in the company tried to take that top dog position. And so that's why I think that VHS in chapter 3, where we hear Stella surprised that somebody's being, one of her children's being taken away from her. I think that's after Elliot died, and now all of a sudden, the king is dead, right? Her protector almost has gone, and so now Stella is vulnerable almost, because people like Harley Sawyer now have way more power because there's no Elliot to protect her, right? Although again, there may be if he's 1006, but so Stella at that point was kind of vulnerable, and we still don't know what happened to her. I still potentially think she could be in a poppy, because we don't know how many poppies there are. But like, I think that was part of like the downfall. Once the company started struggling, everyone was desperate to try and keep the company in profit. They gave Harley Sawyer the green light, which also gave him a lot of power, because now he had like a little mini army. Like, he had Boxy Boo that he could go and kill Rowan Stoll with, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, who's going to argue? Like, imagine if Harley Sawyer said, "Hey, Nized at Playtime Co., I want you to go and do this really terrible thing." Are you going to say no when you know he's got a Boxy Boo that could just kill you? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah. I feel like that,
you're forced to do it.
Yeah, and I feel like this is what the movie could do as well. Like, the movie could explore this like power dynamic really, really well. Like, we could see these like, conflicts within the higher ups. And sorry, just to go on a completely different side. You were talking about Jimmy Roth, right? Jimmy Roth.
Yeah.
Who, for anyone who might have forgotten, Jimmy Roth, who's played by Eli Roth, funnily enough, he was the head of marketing. And it seems like when the big fiasco happened with the Smiling Critters, it seems like that may have been enough to get him fired or killed or something, because we never figure out what happened to him. But if you look in the book, there are 5 department heads or however many there are, and they line up exactly in the same exact order as the slides we find in chapter 2, and the last one is Jimmy Roth. But obviously in chapter 2, we see that it's been taken down and the letters are on the floor. Well, I'm wondering now if that was because they were taking down his letters and replacing them with others, but then obviously they got interrupted because of the Hour of Joy. Because obviously Jimmy was disgraced, right? He was disgraced. He ruined the company almost with the Smiling Critters fiasco. So yeah, like that power vacuum section, it's still very murky, and I'd love to get some more insights into it, but I think that's basically what happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like, because we don't know who the name was in the other tunnel, right? In chapter 2, we don't know yet. But now, after the book, I do possibly think it's Jimmy.
Well, the thing is, the big counterpoint that sort of disproves that is that the letters don't match up to Jimmy Roth. The letters aren't there. The letters spell out either Jamie Hyonba or Jamie B. Honey. It can't be Honey. Matt Pat said it was Honey, but it can't be because there's only one E. But it's Jamie B. Honey. And so obviously that doesn't fit with Jimmy Roth. There are the J and the Y and everything. So I'm wondering if they were switching the name, and while they were switching it, the Hour of Joy happened and they just dropped the letters on the floor and ran. And so that's why the letters don't match anything, because we never got any hint to that in chapter 3. And as far as I'm aware, there is not a single name in any piece of media that fits those letters. So either Mob are keeping that for a surprise reveal later on, or that was the head of marketing and he was being replaced. So I think it's the best idea I've got so far, because we've never had anything from that name, like not a hint or anything.
No, I don't think we got any hints or anything like that. I do think they're just saving it for future chapters.
It's possible.
Yeah, like I personally think they're gonna stop at 5, chapter 5. Even that, like, I do believe with the movie, like, this could be something that they're planning to do, to not showcase any, like, for example, they won't showcase Jimmy or anything in the games or just yet, but they will show it in the movie, right? Because in the movie, I feel like it would be easier to showcase the events, right? Yeah.
It'd be hard now though, because obviously they got Eli Roth to play Jimmy Roth, funnily enough. But so I believe he's a director, right? I think he's a horror director.
Yeah, he is.
Mm-hmm. But has he ever been in? Has he ever acted? Could they get him? Maybe I don't know.
Funny enough, I was literally looking at his movies. I do think he's just a director. He did direct the Hostel movies, I believe.
He's quite big in horror. I'm terrible with names. Like, names are one of my biggest weakness, but he's quite big in horror. Like, he's done quite a lot. So.
Oh yeah, he does. I see a lot here. Yeah, I think he's mostly a director. I don't see him acting in anything here.
Interesting. So I wonder if they'll be able to get him back, or they'll have to cast someone else if they wanted to do Jimmy.
Because yeah, for the directors obviously matter, right, for the movies. But like, I don't know. It depends what kind of movie it is, because directors can make good movies, but they have to see what they're working with to make it good. Sure. So we're gonna have to see who they choose, because we already have the producers. We don't have a director yet, but if they do cast Eli, I'm pretty sure they would want him to direct too. But I don't know. We just never know with movies, because I believe with the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, they had one director, but he dropped out of it. I believe Chris Columbus. I believe that was his name.
It's possible. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna have to see who they choose for the movie, because for director wise, I'm not sure if they have to be a fan or they have to be familiar with the source. For example, like if they were gonna work for the Poppy Playtime movie, wouldn't they have to know what their the lore and everything?
Not really. So what happens a lot of the time is if there is a source material, is the director and other people working on the movie will learn. So Mob will obviously have like an idea of a story, maybe a script or whatever, but they will also have supporting lore and supporting materials that they will then pass over. This happens a lot with so Game of Thrones is a good example of this, right? With Game of Thrones, the first however many seasons were all based on the books, and they were very, very, very similar to the books. There was a few new characters, there's a few changes here and there, but generally speaking, it was very true to the books. And one of the ways that they did that was they talked to George R.R. Martin, and he probably provided notes and things like that. I mean, I'm sure some of them maybe read some of the books, but I don't think you have to be necessarily like an expert. You can learn the lore, right? Like we all learn it from the games and such. So, and Mob will have like the key points for them, right? So yeah, they don't have to be a fan. They can anyone can direct. It is usually a good thing for the person to at least enjoy the source material, though. We've had I'm not going to give any like specific examples, but we've had some things lately where it's like they clearly don't like the source material and it's made the show bad or the movie bad. So yeah, it's usually a good thing that they at least enjoy it, but I don't think you have to be like a lore expert or anything.
Yeah, I do see that. I was just curious about that whole situation because I know some directors don't get everything or know everything, so they can't work fully with the movie. I'm trying to make sense, but like, you know,
I get you. It's usually like a conflict. It's usually like when what it usually is when the director wants to do something different to the source material. That's usually where it becomes a problem. And I think a lack of understanding of a source material is one thing. But I again, the Poppy Playtime's not that complicated, right? Like if Mob have the full story, it's not that complicated. I think you could probably learn it in a day. Like I don't think you really need to go study it too much. You know what I mean? Like here's the characters, here's what they did, and yeah. Because I mean, like if you think about chapter 1 to 3, there's not really that much story in those 3 chapters. If you really think about it, there's not that much. So we've done a lot of speculating and there's been like a lot of backstory with ARGs and stuff, but there's not really that much. It's not like Lord of the Rings where you've got like, you know, 3 books and then a Hobbit book and then like a history book and all that lot. It's not that deep.
Yeah. It's simple. Like I said, it's campy. It could be a campy situation.
Is that what you want? Are you hoping for like a bit of a cheesy campy movie?
Not cheesy. Well, I don't know, because maybe like what's this one horror movie? Not Willy's Wonderland. Willy's Wonderland is an example for a campy movie. I'm not sure if you watched that one yourself.
So here's my thing, right? I love horror. I'm also a big fan of like horror comedy. So Chucky, if anyone doesn't know, Chucky is my favorite slasher. I love Child's Play. I love Chucky. And that arguably gets kind of silly at times. But my favorite Chucky movie is the first Child's Play 1. And that's because that movie, it does have a little bit of humor in it, but he's kind of scary in the first one. Because he's always like, for anyone who's never seen Chucky, he's like a doll and he's got like his soul's inside, but like he'll often pretend that he's not. He'll pretend that he's just a normal doll. So like when he'll do something terrible and then somebody will come over and he'll be like, hi, I'm Chucky. Like it relates to this like really, it is silly on the surface, but it's really scary at times. And that's what I'm hoping the Poppy movie does, where it's like, yeah, okay, Huggy is a big blue like dude, and he looks kind of goofy, but realistically, he could rip you to shreds. You know, like it's going to be hard for them to find a balance, but I'm sure they can. I just hope they lean more into the scary. I want scary movies.
Yeah, me too. Taking Child's Play for an example or inspiration, I do hope they go with they're just toys. They don't do anything. But while they're not watching, they like move, right? Like they move, they go off maybe killing employees, but everyone just thinks they're just toys. They don't do anything until later, as the movie progresses. Then they will start to see. That's one thing I hope they do in the movie.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting again, to go back to the book. There's an interesting segment in the Poppy Playtime book where it talks about there's this apparently common thing in the factory of staff members being diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I could probably do a video on this, but I don't fully know if they're implying that the chemicals in the factory were actually sending people crazy, or if this was a way for the company to be like, wait, you're seeing things moving, oh, you must just be going crazy then. You know, that whole like gaslighting? So they could do that in the movie as well, where it's like, I saw this doll move, and it's like, no, you didn't. But like the person knows that they did, right? Like they're in on it. And they're like, no, you didn't. Like, and they could show like the camera VHS and it's been edited and it's just completely still, right? That whole like making them doubt themselves and being like, I'm just going crazy. I'm imagining it all. Like I'm overworked, right?
Yeah, like another Marcus thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because these staff members were not looked after, and again, the orientation notebook really delves into that. But like, they were not looked after at all, and so if they're being overworked, especially because the company's struggling, right, and being overworked, they're tired, they're stressed. and then they see stuff going on, they could easily be convinced that it's all in their head. So the movie could go for that aspect and have like a real psychological element to it too, which would be really interesting for a mascot horror movie.
Definitely. Yeah, that's like an interesting take that they can do, because they are very strict. In the book, they show how Playtime Co. was very strict on the employees about what they can do, what they can say, right?
A weird obsession with always washing your hands too. I still don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. It's like pointed out as well. Like even so for anyone who hasn't read the book yet, the book is set up to be like a guidebook for new staff. But the person who is it's their book, PW, they have attached notes to it. And one of like the note on that is like, this is really strange. They seem to be really insistent about this. And part of me is like, I wonder why. Like what? Like that's got to be hinting something. That's
one thing
right?
I've seen. I'm like, yeah. Well, why are they obsessed with the hands being clean?
Yeah. Is it because like the factory has like, you know, there's got to be sterile because there's surgeries going on, or is it because like was this another way for the company to like monitor you? Because it says just hand checks, like regular hand checks to check if your hand's dirty. It's like, is it just another way to like control you? Like I don't know.
It is definitely a weird thing that they do. Or to be obsessed with. Oh yeah, like the regular hand check routine. Like, okay, but why? Like, yeah. It's so weird.
It is weird. Like, stop, this is your daily hand check. Like, show me them fingies, you know? Like,
I don't get it. I don't know. There has to be a reason for that, but I guess we're gonna have to wait and see what the actual reason is. But I just don't. Yeah, like you said, it might be just because like they're doing mostly surgeries almost all the time. So.
But then they don't do those surgeries on the you know, the staff that know about the surgeries. It's all done like underground. So this is why I'm like, I don't know. It seems like such a weird little thing to point out, but they're clearly pointing it out for a reason. Like it has to mean something.
That's a whole other own theory on that. Why is Playtime Co. obsessed with clean hands? That doesn't need a title.
Well, it could be late Pierre. He's supposedly like paranoid. Like maybe it's, you know, maybe he's obsessed with cleanliness too. Maybe he's, I don't know.
Maybe
I could make I could probably make several videos on this notebook, but
you have the chance, or you have the material right there. Like especially the whole hands thing, that can be, like I said, a whole theory on its own. I don't know. I like now that we mentioned it a lot now, it's just a weird thing to think about. Like why the hands? Yeah, sorry, this episode was supposed to be about the movie, but the book also came out like right at the same time as the movie. Yeah. And so my brain is I'm still absorbing the book in my brain. Like I keep looking at it and reading it, and just buy the book, guys. It's good.
It really is.
Your questions will be mostly answered.
No, you'll have more questions after reading it. But like I wasn't even that bothered by it. I had to get reminded in the YouTube comments. So for anyone who's never watched my videos, this is not a plug, but like I had I made a video the other day because it'd been a little while again, like a couple of weeks since I made a Poppy video, and it just seemed like nothing was happening. And my channel is mainly Poppy at this point. And I was kind of like bored and kind of like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do a little video where I like take a look back over the series and how it's evolved and stuff. And at the beginning of that video, I said, oh, nothing's happening with Poppy Playtime at the moment. And then we got the book and the movie news back to back, like 2 days later. And I had to find out in my comment section from someone being like, what do you mean nothing's happening? The book comes out tomorrow. And I was like, wait, it does? It does? I didn't even know. So I wasn't even going to bother. I wasn't even going to bother buying it because I didn't expect it to actually have like solid lore in it. I thought it was just going to be like a recap, but it actually adds a lot of information that we don't have before. So definitely worth looking at.
Mm-hmm. To almost wrap things up, I'm actually going to do something really funny, or talk about something funny about the movie. Like, do you think like they should heavily thrive on CGI, like I mentioned before, for the monsters, or do you think they should do practical animatronics?
No. So okay, I'm old school. I'm old. If you look at any movie that uses practical effects, like Alien, for an example, they hold up for way longer and they always look better. When practical effects are done better, I think they are always better than CGI. CGI could be great. And for movies like, say, Transformers, where it's like, you know, giant metal vehicles fighting and stuff, you kind of have to do that CGI, right? You kind of have to. But even then, a lot of those movies still use practical effects. And I think that no matter how good CGI is, your brain still thinks that's not real. Whereas one of the reasons why Alien was so scary was because that was a man in a suit and that was real. What you were seeing was real. And even though it might not look the most realistic by today's standards, that's still something real that's moving. Like CGI, as good as it gets, will never be as realistic. And I think that you know, with good lighting, with good post-production effects and stuff, practical can look so much scarier. So obviously it would be difficult, but we've seen, have you ever seen that YouTube video? There's a channel that made like a life-size living Huggy.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I think the same people made a Dog Day animatronic, a Catnap animatronic.
Yeah. So like you can do it, especially with a good budget. Like you can do it, and you could make it super scary. Like with how, like, you know, movie magic, as they used to call it, you could even get a person in a suit, and you could make it the right scale with the right camera angles and the right lengths and stuff. So like, I really hope they go down the practical route, which also FNAF did, right? FNAF did like pretty much all practical, and it looked great.
Yeah, exactly. I get it, like maybe like when they attack it can be CGI, but like I just don't hope they go directly with CGI. Like that's the one thing I love about Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie. They've actually built the animatronics themselves, so it's like it's possible, especially with Legendary. They put on more budget. The costumes or the animatronics could look so good in probably Playtime. Exactly. And like you say, like for the attacks and stuff, but even then, again, to go back to Alien, there's one of the most sort of iconic scenes of all time in horror movies was that scene in Alien that was all practical with the chestburster scene. And a lot of stuff like that these days is CGI. And that scene, it's so visceral, it's so real. If you've never seen Alien, go watch Alien if you're legally old enough, you know. But like, yeah, I'm sure you have, but like I'm talking to your viewers. Like, if it's, I know there's like some 12-year-old watching the podcast now, being like, "Mummy, could I watch Alien?" But like, traumatize you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was watching Alien when I was 12, but we don't talk about that. But yeah, so that scene was fully practical. It was all. If you've never heard the story, that scene was all practical, but it was also the actors were told that it was going to happen, but they weren't told when. They thought it was just like a random take, but it was actually the take. And so a lot of those reactions are real. And I think that's true for like actors too. Like when you see them actually acting in front of a real thing, I don't know, it just has more authenticity to it, you know? Yeah,
it's like very interesting. Like I like pointing out movie facts, like while watching it. For example, I was watching Scream the other night with my sisters, and there was a scene where Ghostface stabs an actor in the chest and they scream. And that scene specifically, that was an actual real scream from the actor because they actually stabbed him accidentally. So that's what makes that scene more realistic.
I heard about this. How can you explain it? Can you explain it fully? How did they accidentally stab someone?
So in the Scream, I'm not sure if you watched Scream, the original one.
Yeah.
The scene where Sydney was wearing the Ghostface costume and she was stabbing Billy in the chest with the umbrella. That specific scene, the actor was wearing a protective vest on, but before he fell down to the ground after screaming, that specific stab, the actor, Nev, she accidentally missed the vest. So that was an actual scream from the actor.
Yeah, and they obviously kept it because it was obviously the best take, which, again, we don't condone stabbing any actors.
No.
but yeah, no, it's crazy how, like, again, a lot of this stuff used to happen with the physical stunts and effects and things, and I obviously want everyone to stay safe, but I think that CGI, it was like the biggest fad for so long, right? Every movie had to have CGI, every movie had to be 3D, every movie had to have like these crazy big explosions and stuff. And I feel like, I don't know, there's like a charm has gone, right? It's like this whole AI debate at the moment. Like one of the reasons why the AI art is so terrible is because it's lost that human touch to it. Like it even if it might technically, well, it's obviously the AI art's not perfect, but like even though the CGI might be technically perfect, it's missing that like, it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be real, right? And it's missing that realism. And I don't know, I'm always going to go practical effects. But
same.
We'll see what they do. Again, Legendary, they're known for their big budgets, so we'll see.
I wonder if they're gonna build the actual set. Yeah, I assume they're gonna build these sets, like, you know, the factory sets and everything.
I hope so, but that would be so hard though because there's so many and they're so big. Like it depends where the game's set, where the movie's set. Because if it's set in like the Playtime co-main factory. Well, if they go, it depends how much they use of it. They can. So many movies have done this. So many movies have had big open areas and stuff, but they often use green screen now. So
yeah,
which again, I prefer practical sets. Like even when they do like a mix, when they do like, they'll have like a green screen background, but then they'll have the physical set as well. Like that's even better than just green screen. So especially for a horror movie where everything's going to be dark and
I don't know. This every time thinking about it or speculating about the movie gets more exciting.
It's annoying though, isn't it? Because this movie's years off.
Yeah.
It's so far away.
I just don't want to hype ourselves up, to get disappointed like how we did with the FNAF movie. We don't want to hype ourselves too much and then get that.
Yeah. I mean, well, to be fair for me, I wasn't overly hyped for the FNAF movie. I wasn't expecting it to be amazing because so many video game adaptation movies have been kind of meh. So I didn't have huge expectations, but again, I'm not like the biggest FNAF fan anyway. So I enjoyed the FNAF movie, but that definitely had like there was a missing opportunity or a lack of opportunity there. Like they could have done so much more with it, and I'm sad that they didn't. And I hope that the Poppy movie looks at that and goes, well, they were missing this, they were missing that, and we won't make the same mistake.
I think they're gonna make the second one scarier. They've seen the criticisms, so
I hope so. I know everyone was mad about the eyes because the eyes were glowing red, and then they turned that off. But there was a scene at the beginning where I was like, oh, this is actually going to be scary because there's like a death scene at the beginning. I won't spoil it. And then we never really had anything after that. It was just all like, oh, here's some lore and here's some character, and oh no, it's bad. And I don't know,
talking, no action.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they just needed some horror sequences. Like, how do you not have? Sorry to go back to the same discussion, but how do you not have a scene where he's in the office and he's like, he just fell asleep. He fell asleep and woke up. Like, how do you not have a whole scene where it's like he keeps seeing them moving? And then he thinks he's just going crazy, but then one he really is moving, like, how do you not have that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Just more horror elements. That's like something I'm going to keep on pushing for the Poppy movie. Just make it actually horror-like. Don't dump all the lore at once, right?
Well, do you know what's really interesting that now that you bring this up? Chapter 3, they did do this, right? They did go really scary with it. And I've heard a lot of people recently being like, oh, I preferred chapters 1 and 2, like the tone of it. And I'm wondering, like, because they really did go a lot darker with chapter 3, and if that's the direction that the game's going to go in, like, it would make sense that the movie went in that direction, right? So I personally hope it does. I personally hope it has like a full on, even if it's only a part of the movie, I hope it has a full on horror. This is an actual real horror movie and not a mascot horror with a bit of horror thrown in. Like, no, full on horror segment. I want to see people die.
Yeah, I think that's something the Bendy movie is gonna get right, because the director or one of the co-creators like saying the first thing that the Bendy movie that we're gonna be working on, it's gonna be scary. That's the first thing they said.
Good.
It's gonna be scary.
The more horror needs to be scary, not even just movie adaptations. I feel like game adaptations. More horror needs to be scary. They've gone so tame, a lot of them now, and I'm like, no, make it scary.
I don't know why. Like, that's why when I get worried when a horror movies get PG-13 ratings. I'm like, oh, so not gonna show much then.
Well, that's why they make it a lower rating so they can sell it to more people in theory. But then the fallacy of that is the movie is then more boring, so less people go and see it.
Yeah, it's like you're sacrificing something there. Like PG-13, more sales, but you can't show anything much. You can't show much in the movie.
Exactly. So less people play it because it's watch it because it's boring. Like it's. Yeah. It's almost like you're a genius right now, like we've figured this out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's like, that's why with this movie, knowing Mob, maybe they're gonna go with the PG-13 rating with this one, unfortunately.
Maybe. I mean, there's this like, let's address the elephant in the room, and I'm aware you said we were wrapping up, but deal with it, audience. The elephant in the room is both FNAF and Poppy are kind of known for having younger fans. And a lot of those fans don't even necessarily even play the games, or maybe they'll watch a playthrough, but there's younger fans that enjoy the characters and whatnot. My argument is if you look at my YouTube analytics, if you look at most people that I know, their YouTube analytics, the majority of our audiences are 20 plus. So it's obviously like there's this stereotype that these things appeal to younger people, but the majority of people that I know that enjoy the content on it are older. So why would you push it towards a PG-13 rating? Like, you know what I mean? Like, make it...
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, right? If a horror movie is good now, well then next year, like a bunch of new people are old enough to go and see it, right? Or the year after and whatever. So, like, for the future of your franchise, you need to have your product be the best it can be, and to sacrifice the product to get a higher rating to get more sales, I can't personally see this ever being a good thing. So I hope that they don't. I hope that they go for a higher rating. Again, if the movie warrants it, if that's what they want to make, make it. If they push it to a PG-13 to get more viewers, then the people that watch it aren't going to enjoy it as much. So
yeah, unless they put it off. Like, the movie can't be scary, but it's PG-13, right? Like, I'm fine with it. It can be PG-13 if it wants to be, but if the horror is there, then I'm fine with it.
I mean, fair, but yeah.
You don't have to show much.
Yeah, I want them to show much.
Yeah, I know. I'm all for gore too. And don't get me wrong. I want to see people get torn in half, for example. Like, that's kind of stuff. But like,
the thing that I worry about is we see Huggy and we see him go to attack somebody, and then it's just like off camera or blurred out, or like, I don't want to see that. I want to see it happen. I want to be scared. I want the main character to be scared.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves with horror movies: off-screen kills. I hate that.
Yup, same. The only time I'm okay with it is if it's for like they want to keep you in suspense. Did they die or not? Like if they're doing that, fine. Like, oh, did they actually die or did they not die? That's fine. But otherwise, no. Show me the kill. Show me the kill.
That, or when you know how some movies they have the main killer or something jump into the screen and then it transitions to another screen.
Yeah,
another scene. Something like that. I'm fine with that, but I just don't want to see the shadows or silhouettes of someone getting, killed.
You hear the screaming as the camera pans away to a random box or something. Like, no.
No, I hate that. Don't do that.
Yeah, same.
I don't want to see that, man. The PG-13 says it.
Have they confirmed that though? Like, have they said it's going to be PG-13, or is that just, are you speculating?
I'm just speculating because knowing them,
right.
I think it's going to be PG-13, unless they surprise us with R rating. I'd be like, oh, okay, then they want to show stuff. They want to show it.
So your rating system is different to ours. We have, like, I think it's 12, 15, and 18. And I guess 18 is what you would consider mature. But, like, I can understand if they didn't want to go mature, but I think they should. And this is just my personal opinion. I'm not a movie maker. But I think they should. I think they should go mature and make it a horror movie and make it scary. Because look at how many horror games come out recently that are super scary and they do really well. And then look at all these like action horror games that are doing less well because everyone's played them all before. Like Alan Wake 2 is a great example. It's not apparently doing all that well. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that scary. That's why. Like, hire me, game studios. Make your games more scary. You'll sell more copies. Trust me.
That's pretty much why the saying goes, like, hire fans to help with the games, right? Because the fans know what they were doing.
It's true. So if you pursue, if you make something for everyone, it's going to be for no one, right? There's probably a way better way of saying that quote. I just butchered it, but it's true. If you try and make it for everyone, it'll be for no one. You have to make it for an audience, and I guess it'll depend on what audience mob choose, or the studio. Maybe Legendary will be like, nah, we want it to be PG-13, like we don't know.
That's why I love Chapter 3, because they went for the more mature route. Mm-hmm. They showed more stuff there. I love Chapter 3. Chapter 3 was great. They could go so much worse than that, though. Like, they could go so much further. And I'm so interested. I actually asked this in the Partners in Crime Discord today, but I'm very interested to know, like, how the devs feel about Chapter 3. Like, how did it perform? Because I hope they go even darker with Chapter 4. Like, I hope Chapter 4 is... Same. Yeah. Just have to wait and see. But I do hope they stay in the more mature route.
Same, but, money and companies, like, I get it. They got to make a profit. I get it.
But yeah, hopefully this movie actually sparks up something. Because I know Poppy Playtime is known for mostly kids, but...
This is such a stereotype, though. I don't think it is actually mostly kids. I think there are, like, children who really like the characters and stuff, and this is true with a lot of games, like, again, Five Nights at Freddy's, or, like, there's a lot of games that children, because they enjoy the characters, but I really do think there's a lot more adults that like Poppy Playtime than we think. I think that's just a stereotypical thing. And you always hear about that, like, you hear about the schools being worried about the Poppy Playtime and whatever, but you never hear about, like, some 45-year-old guy sat in his room and going, I really like this Poppy Playtime stuff. Like, you never hear about that, right? Like, you always hear about the bad stuff. So, I don't know. I think it's a stereotype, but I don't know how true it is.
Yeah, like, that's one of the things that I like about Bendy, for example. Bendy is known for mostly adults. I don't see many kids seeing it as their next Five Nights at Freddy's. But unfortunately, Poppy Playtime went into that hole.
It's because of the jump scares, though. Like, this is the thing. What happens is, a game with big jump scares attracts YouTubers. YouTubers play the game, and children like YouTubers, so they watch the YouTubers and they watch the jump scare game, and then they become fans of it. And so in a lot of ways, I'm not even necessarily sure if a lot of the younger Poppy fans are even fans of Poppy, It's more the fans of the characters that they saw in their favorite YouTuber play,
100%.
So yeah, it's a weird phenomenon for sure. But yeah, I don't know if there's actually that. Like, I can't imagine you've got 8-year-olds playing Poppy Playtime at home on their like PC or whatever. Like, I just don't. Maybe.
I agree. But we're gonna have to wait and see for the movie. We're both excited for it. We both want the best for it. That's why we love to give criticism. We love to give feedback. Please just don't mess it up.
Yeah, just don't mess it up. Just come on, Mob. Come on, Legendary.
You can do it. If you want fans or creators to get on, we'll help you.
And hey, of course, no matter if it's amazing or if it's terrible, we'll probably talk about it. So.
Oh, for sure. I'll be here. I'm gonna talk the hell out of it. I'm gonna talk the hell out of it.
Don't forget to drop Nized a sub, guys, because there's going to be conversations.
Conversations?
I'm sure you're going to be talking about it. You're going to be talking about the movie when it comes out, and
true.
Yeah, so drop a sub. I'm trying to give you a plug here, Nized.
No, go support Tericho. Honestly, he's the guest here. I'm just the messenger.
Oh, I see. But either way, definitely give Nized a sub, guys. Definitely well worth it. One of the nicest Poppy creators that I've met, anyway. All the other ones are terrible, and I hate them all. No, no, they seem good,
and they're all short.
Great. Yeah, they're really. I've heard this. I heard this in your episode with Sheep. I heard this. All really tiny, apparently. Crazy.
Yeah, they're all tiny. Yeah.
I think I am actually the tallest Poppy Playtime creator. I think.
Yeah, I'm right below you. But yes, it was great talking to you, Tericho.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Thank you. It's been really fun.
And I can't wait to possibly talk to you more. Even when the movie comes out, I'm down to talk about it. It's gonna be fun.
100%. Let's do it.